it's high time to actually start because there is a beautiful day outside. So we would like to actually go outside and have a time with our friends or something like that. So let's just start. So welcome everyone at the webinar concerning violence against women after the pandemic of COVID-19. My name is Dagmara Dombek, and I basically will be in charge of the webinar today. And during this event, you will be able to listen to extremely interesting short lectures by Julia Soroka and Morgana Betega-Kazabin, women who are specializing in topics concerning women's rights. But before we start, I would like to mention that this webinar actually takes place as a part of the project called A Safe Place, which is kind of important because it is co-funded by CBSS, and it aims at addressing the widespread phenomenon of domestic violence in the Baltics arena, and more specifically to support women who are increasingly victims of violence during the ongoing worldwide pandemic, while also educating those who are interested in learning more about the topic and training people working with domestic violence. So now I will share the screen with you so you could actually see our presentation. And me and my friend, Victoria, who is not only my friend, but also co-worker, we will present you like the basic information before we actually give voice to Julia and Morgana. So I already said that the webinar is about the violence against women after the pandemic of the COVID-19. And when it comes to the statistics, according to a 2020 FRA survey, an average of 1 in 3 women in the European member states has experienced physical and or sexual violence at least once since she was 15 years old. Unfortunately, due to the social dynamics caused by the current global pandemic, emerging data and reports of 2020 demonstrate that the violence against women has drastically increased in all European countries. So, as you can see, even though in the contemporary world we are struggling with various kinds of violence and both women and men can be victims, the violence against women is still the biggest public health problem and a violation of women's human rights. Around 30% of women worldwide have been subjected to either physical or sexual intimate partner violence or non-partner sexual violence in their lifetime. Unfortunately, most of this violence is intimate partner violence because they have like their relationships with those persons, they spend time with them. And in worldwide arena, almost 1/3, so it's like 27% of women aged between 15 and 49 have been in a relationship, and they reported that they have been subjected to some form of physical or sexual violence by their intimate partner. As you probably know, violence can negatively affect women's physical, mental, sexual, and also reproductive health, and it may increase the risk of acquiring HIV in some settings. But of course, we also must remember that violence against women is preventable. And to prevent this kind of violence, we need to understand the drivers of gendered violence and what we can do as people and as a society to prevent it. Therefore, education on such topics is necessary. And this is one of the reasons we are actually here today. But now we would like to give you examples of violence against women in Poland. And I guess, Victoria, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dagmara. So Poland is one of those countries where also social changes take place very slowly. This is due to the fact that Polish society is conservative and strongly associated with the institution of Catholic Church, which...
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay. and which exerts a great influence on political decisions. However, Poland belongs to the West, and the influence of the younger generation, in whom Western values have become deeply entrenched, make the influence of conservatives and progressives collide, causing numerous social conflicts. In recent years, those social conflicts have occurred particularly in the area of women's rights, which are systematically restricted in Poland under the guise of fighting to defend the traditional Polish values. During the COVID pandemic in Poland and around the world, inequality worsened, which affected women the most. 12% of women in Poland declared that they have been beaten by their husbands or partners. Every 1 in 5 Polish women have been raped, and 90% of women in Poland have experienced sexual violence. And these are just a few examples of well-known statistics showing the horrible situation of Polish women. Therefore, the questions arises, what decisions did the Polish government take during the pandemic to support Polish women? In July 2020, the Minister of Justice, Zbigniew Ziobro, declared the initiations of the process of Poland's formal withdrawal from the Istanbul Convention, because it is ideologically marked and harms Polish families instead of helping Polish. Prime Minister Morawiecki referred the convention to the politicized Constitutional Tribunal to check its compliance with the Polish constitution. Therefore, we are still not sure if Poland will withdraw from the convention as Turkey did. Many people said that the Istanbul Convention is ineffective, with which I disagree. Although Poland has been a signatory to the convention since 2015, only a few of its provisions have been implemented, such as 24-hour helplines for victims of violence, prosecuting perpetrators of rape ex officio, and during the pandemic, isolation of perpetrators of violence from its victims was introduced. On the other hand, there has been a failure to provide institutional support for victims of violence, to coordinate cooperation between aid organizations and authorities, to provide reliable education, and above all, to redefine the concept of rape by adding to it the premise of consent, and to introduce the criminal code, a provision of the phenomenon of economic violence. The safety in Poland has also been seriously violated in the area of reproductive rights. Polish women have the worst access to contraceptions. They cannot count on reliable sexual education. And in addition, at the end of 2020, their access to abortion in the case of irreversible fetal defects was limited. There are just a few of forms of the violence used by the Polish government against Polish women. The effects of these are difficult to assess, but the COVID-19 pandemic and the decisions made by political decisions makers at the time only contributed to the deteriorations of the already poor situation of women in Poland. Until the implementation of all the provisions of the Istanbul Convention is not fulfilled, reliable sex education will not be introduced in Polish schools, and women's reproductive rights will still be limited. Therefore, women in Poland will not be safe. Thank you. Dagmara, the floor is yours.
Okay, I had to unmute myself. So thank you very much. This was actually to introduce you to the topic, because not everyone knows like the basic things connected to the violence against women, especially in Poland. Therefore, we actually want you to now listen to wonderful women, Julia Soroka and Morgana. And I will basically give the floor to Julia Soroka now. And I will make you a host because I know that you have to share the presentation with everyone. So just give me a moment.
Okay, I think I can do this. Oh, no, okay.
Okay, so now you should actually do that.
Okay. No, it's still off. I don't have this option yet.
Wait a minute because I've made you a host, so you should do that now.
Okay, I still can't. Should I?
You should do that. I don't know why you can't.
I still have this information that the host of this option of sharing the screen by me.
Because I've made you a host. Can you rejoin?
Okay, I will try to do. And should
Sorry,
I rejoin on the same link, or you send me
the same link? Yeah.
Okay, so
or maybe Julia can send you the presentation by the email, and you can show it, Dagmara.
Okay, yeah, that's also not a problem.
Okay, but maybe guys, first I will try rejoin and join again. Okay.
Okay. Sorry, guys, for the technical problems. Like those events are always full of those problems, and this is just a part of it. So don't mind us. We'll just wait for her.
Okay, hello. I will try now. It's
okay,
still...
just wait. I will make you a host and change host, and now you should actually have it.
Okay. I still have this information that
so
it's
I would just, Morgana, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so I will just make you a host and you should try, okay? Okay. I just hate those technical problems. So sorry guys for that so much.
Yeah, for me it works.
So, okay, she will be first, and Julia, you can actually send me the link on my email. You have my
sure,
okay,
sure,
and I will send. Okay, thank you very much for that.
Okay, so let me try to be a little bit better with the light here. Share the screen.
Yeah, it works perfectly. Thank you. So the floor is yours. You unmuted yourself. You have to unmute yourself. You're muted. At the left bottom. So just click and just try something. Oh, now it works.
Because I was sharing the computer audio. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity of being here today. And for everyone, my name is Morgana. I recently graduated here in Poland in international security. And I specialize in gender equality and gender security. Today, I thought that one good topic to talk about would be the financial abuse or economic abuse during unstable times and the impact that the COVID-19 pandemic has on this kind of abuse. So domestic violence actually englobes a lot of different kinds of abuse. like control over the personal, emotional, psychological, and physical abuse, sexual abuse, financial or economic abuse, can be also verbal with coercion, threats, blame. It can be by using male privilege over a woman, intimidation, isolating the victim, and many other forms. Here we can see a UN chart that shows us the most common ways that this power and control is used upon a victim. And there we can see also that the economic abuse, it is by preventing the person to get a job, by asking them, making them ask for money, by giving them an allowance and only letting them use that, and taking control of the money, making debts on the name of the person, or any other kind of things related more to the economic situation of the household. And the impact that COVID has on this, it is that the social context brought by the pandemic, it really influenced a lot on the levels that people can be abusive. And with the stress and not having many networks active, and isolating at home for public health reasons, these factors, they actually can aggravate situations of abuse, any kind of them. And with the disruption of the livelihoods and the ability to earn a living itself, and including for women that are many informal wage workers, they will decrease, and they will not have as many access to basic needs and services, which can make the family more stressful and potentially cause conflicts in the relationship. Here in this picture, we can see that before the pandemic, there were about 243 million women and girls that would have experienced sexual and or physical abuse by a partner. And since the pandemic, these numbers have intensified. And one of the factors is security, health, and money worries. So in this case, the fact that many people lost their jobs, or that they were not able to perform as much jobs as they did before, or have clients, visits, things like that, really affects and overall the situation for women and for partners that are abused in their homes. And the economic abuse itself involves making or attempting to make a person financially dependent by maintaining total control over their financial resources. They can withhold access to money and forbid to attend school or employment. And it is the goal of the perpetrator is to have power over the relationship and over the person. So they create this kind of dependency. And because we need money in order to live, to pay rent, to be able to go somewhere else, buy train tickets or something like that, it is very difficult for people that are facing economic abuse or financial abuse to actually leave these conditions that they are in. There is a little difference between financial abuse and economic abuse, depending to the researcher that you're looking. Some people say that it's pretty much the same thing, but the financial would be more of controlling finances, stealing money, and coercing someone into debt, whereas economic abuse is more of the controlling of resources, housing, food, employment, and other activities that can improve your economic status, for example. And it is relevant to consider in the pandemic situation, the lockdown, the economic stress, and the control and power. So with the lockdown, with many people being at home and only essential workers leaving, it created overall a situation in which people that were already in abusive relationships, they are locked inside with their abusers. And with this, they cannot call for help. They cannot sometimes even use the computer in order to look for help or talk to someone, or they lose the ties to the community that they used to have before. That could be a way of escaping. And this abuse can actually intensify. With the economic stress, it's also relevant because when male partners or abusive partners in general lose their jobs, it is very frequent that they will put this frustration into the person that they are abusing, which can increase psychological, verbal, physical abuse, sexual abuse, and it also can make them even more controlling over financial and economic abuse. And this also gives power. So when we have a situation in which the person is prevented to going to school, or that they cannot go to have a job outside of the house because their partner said no, or they're controlling them to do so, actually, this is more about the being able to know where the person is at all times and being able to control and manipulate and influence them. So it is a very important part to understanding also other types of abuse. And the case in Poland, in Poland, actually, there is no definition of economic abuse by the criminal code, which is something that many organizations and many different NGOs and conventions and experts have already been pressing on it in order to be added. And in the National Actual Plan for 2013 to 2016, they refer to it as economic violence, but it is not actually included in the National Program for Preventing Domestic Violence from 2014 to 2020. And it's something that still spoken people about it, still fight for it and want it included, because it has no way of being measured or punished if it's not included. And in Poland, also, the female unemployment was not as distinctive due to the pandemic as in other places. It dropped by 1 percentage point in the second quarter of 2020, but it recovered fully in the next year. But at the same time, Poland already doesn't have many involvement from females in the workforce. So it is 65.7%. The fact that there are many rural areas and many people working in farms and not in cities can be very relevant for this percentage. And women in Poland, they have been overrepresented in the front line of the pandemic and have lacked in decision-making powers, not because they don't want to, but because they don't have this opportunity overall. So it is possible to identify that women are not as present as in other countries. And also with the percentages that in physicians, 52.5% are women of the doctors. And in the case of nurses, it is 97.7%, which actually represents a lot this disparity of the role in the work between women and men, in a way that the gender roles, as a woman being nurse, for example, is more strongly stated, and men as the doctors and things, and in these other areas would be also relevant to this condition. So the impacts that it can have in the pandemic time, not only COVID-19, but in any kind of pandemics, is that like mentioned in the beginning, in the introduction, violence against women is highly prevalent, and intimate part violence is the most common. But because of the health emergencies that COVID-19 brought, violence against women tend to increase because they cannot leave their houses. Also because the public system is very crowded with the health cases in COVID was more, especially in the beginning, it was basically only for COVID cases, and other cases would be not priorities. And with this, women could see themselves in positions that they could not ask for help, or they could not be treated for what was happening with them. Also, some shelters were limited with the amount of people they could take in. And with people being home all the time, if you have your aggressor with you in the house, it can make it difficult for a woman to escape, to ask for help, to call someone, or to actually look for these ways out. And they lose ties with securities that they had in the society before, if they were able to have some. And an article that was made in Polish says that in March, the number of phone calls in our helplines for victims of domestic violence went up 50%. And this was said by the coordinator at the Women's Rights Center, in NGO that supports victims. So we can see a very big raise there. And it's also very important to know how to identify this kind of abuse. And here it's very important to also pay attention with something else. It is not because a woman or someone else in a relationship don't work that they are necessarily suffering from financial or economic abuse. It is very important that the choice is taken into consideration here, because of course we always want to give people the opportunity to be whatever they want. We want to say that women can be doctors, they can be astronauts, they can be whatever they want. But if they want to take time off and put this time into their families and into their homes, they should be able to do so, of course, as well. But this is very important to consider the choice. It has to be the choice of the person of being a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home wife, or just even working from home or having a smaller income by choice. Anything like that has to be a choice. So when we're talking about financial and economic abuse, there is no choice. It is an abusive relationship in which the male or the abusive partner will impose these restrictions into their victims, and they will not allow them to look for jobs. They will not allow them to go to school. They will not allow them to have a career or to be a part of society in these ways. It is very common that the abuser will take care of the finance, so they will give them allowances, and they will be the main person taking care of all the finances, usually with joint accounts, if there is a small income coming for the victim. They can sabotage employment, so they can sometimes very smoothly say that you're being too stressed at this work, and slowly start convincing the victim that they should not be doing that, or that they should be home, they should look for something else, and put little seeds of manipulation into the person's head in order to have them to either quit their job, get fired, or just not look for a job at all. And economic exploitation is also one factor. And in this case, it's very important to know that it can be also, even if the person is working, it can still happen to them. And in this case, more common for financial abuse itself, that, for example, the partner will take money from the person without letting them know, will create debts in their names, it will ruin their credit score, for example, and they won't be able to have anything in their names, and they will not have credits with the banks and everything. And this way, it's they become very dependent as well in the partner. So even if they are working, even if they are receiving a form of income, their credit and they are so deep into debit that they don't have this freedom that they would have with being able to control their own finances. And if the partner of this person sabotages the income, they restrict the way that the money is used and exploit the economic situation of the person, these are signs of economic abuse. There are actually many questions that can be addressed and used in order to relate to this. And if it is, sometimes the partner will stop the person from having money for food, clothes, and basic necessity items. They dictate how the person can spend money. They also blame them for spending money most of the times. And they insist on having receipts for all the purchases. They hide money so the person cannot find it. They make the person ask for money, for example, as well, when they are needing to buy something. They just make them ask for it. They ask them to have something in credit or take a loan for them in your name. Force the victim in order to give them their savings and their wages. They stop the person from having access to their own banking accounts, and many other cases in which they try to regulate the access to money of money to this person. And it's also very good to know the ways that it is possible to help. One of the main ones is paying attention to the signs that a person might be in this kind of abusive relationship. It also comes, like I said before, financial and economic abuse, it's very related to other kinds of abuse in relationships. So they have many of the same symptoms. And one of them is isolation. So the person doesn't talk to their friends as much. They don't see their family as much. They stay more at home. And with the COVID situation, that is the focus of the analysis, this is even more intense because as it was recommended to stay home and quarantine, have the isolation, it can go unnoticed that this person is actually having the symptoms because of an abusive relationship. They can give up hobbies and activities that they used to go before. They don't talk about the personal life anymore. And this can be because sometimes when you start realizing the symptoms of someone in an abusive relationship and you question them about it, they will feel ashamed or they will believe the manipulations of their partners and think that you're against them, and they can stop sharing and they can stop telling these sides of their lives. And also they can have fear of their partner's response. So if they, in this case, spend a little bit more or even have a coffee or something out that they did not plan on doing, it can be triggering for them because they don't know how their partners are going to react to it. And if any signs of domestic abuse, domestic violence is seen, it is very important to report to the police if it's the case, but usually it depends also on the victim. But referring them to support groups, to NGOs that are in care of these topics, contact the bank in this case, or help the person to contact their bank and explain the situation. And then they can even look for grants and financial help so that the victim can leave the situation. So it is something that unfortunately happens a lot. And for this reason, it's possible to find this financial support for people that are living these kind of situations. And UN Women actually placed some recommendations on it. And these recommendations are more for stakeholders and society in general, but it's important that women are put in the center of policy change, solutions, and recovery. And this goes a little bit with what we said about Poland, that Poland doesn't really have that many women in this process. And it is known that when policies are made for men, they're made also to men. So women have different needs and they need to have different situations considered that are disregarded by some of the male population. And for this, it's very important that women are actually active in policy change. They can provide resources to address violence against women and COVID-19 recovery and response plans. So when going to the hospital and having your treatment for COVID, it should be implemented in the plans for recovery. Also, measures against violence against women, to strengthen services for women who experience violence, including where COVID-19 has increased existing risk factors and vulnerability. In this way, we can guarantee that women will feel safe going to the hospital, they will be able to have treatment and help, and also going to the police and other places and shelters. Invest in medium and long-term prevention efforts to end violence against women and girls, and collect sex disaggregated data on the impact of COVID, because sometimes it's difficult to find these differences, these changes. That would be it. Thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, also I put my email there. So if you want to contact, see some sources, or have any questions, you feel free to email me.
Thank you very much for the presentation. It was such a pleasure to listen to such an interesting presentation, to be honest. Guys, if you have any questions, then don't hesitate to ask. If you're feeling shy to actually ask questions right now, you can always, write to Morgana. I believe that she will with pleasure actually answer your questions because she's specializing in those kind of stuff. So thank you very much for that. And I feel like it's time for Julia. And I will share this screen with you because Julia has those kind of problems. So I will just share my screen now. And can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, so it's your turn right now. So the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So hello, I'm Julia Soroko, and professionally I am a graphic designer, interested in social issues, but mostly working with illustration. And today I would like to talk about the problem of sexual violence in public spaces in Poland. And I'm talking about it because I'm trying to solve some problems by creating some graphic design idea of how to help in assertive and empowering ideas to support women. And in the beginning, I also would like to thank Agnieszka Biela, who is an expert on this topic of sexual harassment in public space. And she helped me with a better understanding of the problem and also told me many interesting facts and solutions about the topic I will be speaking about today. So let's start. So what is sexual violence in public space? It is a fairly new concept in Poland, not because it wasn't existed earlier, but because the problem wasn't recognized enough, and it can be explained as a set of unwanted behaviors with a sexual overtones directed at the person who does not consent to it. And I think the easiest way to explain it to someone who, for example, asking you what's the difference between harassment and, for example, flirting with someone, it's this consent part. And you always should ask anyone if this person want to interact with you in that way. And this consent part is very important to it. Next slide, please. And yes, so 81% of Polish women have experienced harassment before the age of 17. As you see, the risk of it is very high, and probably we all know someone who was harassed, or someone who, or even probably you were harassed by yourself. And I would also like to add that most of the research I have from this No to Harassment in Public Spaces, a report from the Research Holabak Poland on the scale of phenomenon of harassment in public space. I really recommend this because there is a lot of information in short and easy form. So that's the survey I mostly will be using in this presentation. And please next. So behaviors recognized as a harassment in public space, as you see, include a whole range of behaviors. And as you can see, it started, we may think, innocent as eye-cutting or whistling, but as you can see, there are also a far more drastic way of harassing someone. And as we all imagine, even honking or whistling or even eye-cutting is something that led to discomfort or even a fear. Next, please. And we all probably heard that most harassment happened at night. And unfortunately, it's not true. The next slide with this survey will show you that the abusers molest, unfortunately, on the whole day. Like you can't just stop walking at the city at night because it's probably, unfortunately, won't help you with going away from abusers around. Next, please. And where does harassment come from? Holabach research showed that many women still don't recognize some behaviors as a sexual harassment. And unfortunately, many of the inappropriate actions are socially acceptable and do not get the reactions from those around them. It is also probably came from the that we are in Poland, we're not taught enough about what should we do when we are seeing, for example, harassment. And sometimes we're scared, sometimes we just don't know what to do. And I also think that in our culture, there is this there is this thinking that sometimes it is how it is, and we can't do anything about it because that's how our society look like. And it's really hurting set of minds, especially for this problem that is harassment. Next slide. Oh, as you can see, which of these acts considered harassment in public do you consider to be harassment? And in this research, we can see that many people that experience something that is due to the definition harassment even don't consider it as a harassment. For example, this honking, whistling, but even grunting and smacking on intrusive talking isn't considered as a harassment for some people. Yeah. Next one. And I also think that the reason that harassment is such a common thing is that it's due to the tactic of acceptance, as I said before, that has been built up over the years through a mixture of upbringing of the girls in harmful patterns of submission and the patriarchal society. And we are still teaching girls that they need to be polite, they need to smile when someone is approaching them, even in the way that they didn't want. And also we are teaching young women what they can object to and what should they live as it is. Yeah. And what are the consequences? Survey, this is then another survey that I'm using, Violence Against Women, a survey of European Union level by FRA. And it shows that half of all women, at least sometimes, avoid certain situation of places for fear of physical assault or sexual assault. And we all can imagine how frustrating it can be when, for example, you're running late, but you know that you can't use the fastest way from the place A to place B because you're afraid that you can be harassed on this way. And many women need to choose another ways that is longer or worse communicate. And this is a huge problem also because a study shows that 35% of respondents reported that they were late for school or work because of harassment. And this can have serious consequences or in their school or work life. Also, a small number of respondents reported that they had to change their place of residence or place of work because of harassment. So yeah, that's also this huge change that you need to do due to violence in public space that you can experience. So what should we do? I think we should take action, and we should use our talents that we have. So my idea to it is making a social campaign. Next slide, please. And I'm thinking about making online public awareness campaign to educate and support those who experience and witness sexual violence in public places. And I thought about making it on social media, especially on Instagram, because my target is younger audience, because as we can see earlier, many women experienced harassment even before 17 years old. So I think the sooner I can reach to these younger women, the better, because they will know how to act and what to do. So that's why I thought about building this campaign about a few points that I will show now. So the first one will be making comic, because it's education through a graphic design that in the easy way can show the situation. For example, this one is starting from a catcalling situation. Sorry, I didn't translate it to English, but I will quickly tell you the story. So as you can see, it's catcalling, and this woman is approached. And in the next slides, we can see how this story go later. There is this confrontation, and with these expert advices, I'm making this story to this confrontation, and I'm giving advice how should these women act. I'm giving the two opportunities, that's two of it is good, and that's how the younger women can teach how to feel safer and what to do in this situation to not end this situation in a negative way for them. And as I said, why comics? That in a few illustrations you can present a problem and solution. The visual appeal match the medium as Instagram, and I think it's really easy to absorb. This whole information is really easy for me to absorb through the comics. So yeah. So next one is to collect women's stories, because I think it's really important to give a voice and to share stories in a safe place, as I hope my Instagram account will be. And it's also really important to share stories, because other people that have maybe been victimized will feel better and less alone, knowing that other people experience it too. And I think a lot of stories can also help create some strategies and tactics on how to act, how to respond appropriately, and what to, for example, avoid in certain situations. My third idea is a basic self-defense tips. And I wanted to show that self-defense is not just about kicks and punches, but it's also through the other options. I also would like to show some, additional kicks and punches, but mostly I would like to show some tactics, for example, trusting intuition, that I recently learned it's really important to really listen and trust your intuition. Or I also would like to show self-soothing methods, because I think sometimes even when situation maybe isn't that scary, we have tendency to get anxious, or to like our mind is tricking us into thinking that we are in danger, and these self-soothing methods could really help to be present in the situation and to act savior to yourself. The other one is assertive positions and commands. That's also really helpful way to ending dangerous situation in non-violent but really successful way. And also I would like to show using the elements of surprise. That also is really helpful if you know how to do it in the best way possible. And the third point, it will be legal advice. Thank you. Legal advice and useful contacts, because I also think it's very important to know what to do and who to go with when you are hurt or need some help. So my project will include all the necessary contacts, websites, and phone numbers needed to ensure that women can be safe and cared for no matter what. And I also would like to give there some legal advice and useful contact, legal advice and basic of the law. Unfortunately, as I know, this sexual violence in public spaces still isn't, still don't have good representation in Polish law. There are some of these behaviors that are illegal, and the other one are not. But I think the more we can like show this problem, maybe something will change. So yeah, I also would like to add this law, or at least have someone as an expert to go with the questions and the legal issues when it will be needed. So the main goal is to create a platform that will provide a simple way to reinforce and introduce the knowledge of the discussed topic, which will grow over time to cover more aspects of this very broad issue. And I'm lately thinking about adding other issues, for example, maybe some ideas or research, how to make cities to be safer, to be built for people, for example. I think we still have a little problem with it in Poland. Or, for example, adding some tips for women with disabilities or for older women. So yeah, so my project will have a name Pewna Droga in English. It means reliable path. And I'm still in the process of making it, but at the end of the May, I think this Instagram and the social campaign will start running on Instagram. So I really encourage you to check it later. I will be for sure, I will be informing on every of my social media platform about it. And thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you very much, Julia. It was such an interesting presentation, I must say, and the graphics were just amazing. And I just can't wait to actually learn more about
Thank you.
the project. So I just wish you so much luck in conducting this campaign, because it's, in my opinion, it's actually very important to raise awareness concerning things on things concerning women's rights, especially when it comes to like violence, because people are, as you said, both of you actually said that people don't actually know those things, and they are actually surprised when, for instance, when a girl says that catwalking is also a harassment, right? So I just want to thank you very much that you actually took your time and presented to us those important matters. I actually recorded everything. So we will also, together with Victoria, share it to our social medias, and you can also share it on yours. Because I believe that as many people as it is actually possible should actually see this, what you actually said during this presentation. And I just hope that we will meet each other in the future to actually talk about it a little bit more, and perhaps do another campaign or webinar concerning those matters. So if you have any question, guys, you can ask it right now, or contact girls on their social medias. You will find Morgana and Julia on social medias and also on their emails. So do you have any questions? Or yeah, I just think like everyone is so shy, especially when it comes to like those webinars. And so I just want to say thank you very much to Morgana and Julia, and Victoria just as well, because she was so stressed. And also to everyone who actually participated and wanted to listen to those crucial matters. Well, thank you very much. And I wish you like a wonderful evening, because the weather is amazing outside. So it's just time to go out and have fun. So thank you very much once again, and have a good one.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.